Well, here on Pure 24/7 Radio, it's time for our very first movie reviews of 2025. And I'm once again here with Andy Godfrey. Hello, Andy.
Hey Nathan, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to everybody listening.
Happy New
We
Year?
hope it's going to be a good year at the cinema. Um,
Yes.
I did a bit of calculation, believe it or not, with press screenings included. I saw 108 films at the cinema last year.
Wow.
So I've got a target to beat.
I would break the record.
Yeah, we're trying. Actually, that wasn't my record. I did see more the year before. I think it was about 120 the year before.
Uh,
But last year was a busy year. We went to the gathering and new wine, and a lot of time was taken up. And but yeah, we'll see how we do this year. And we've got some good films to talk about today.
awesome. I'm looking forward to it. It's our very first movie reviews of the
Yeah,
year. And I know you've seen some possibly since we last spoke
yeah,
before the new
absolutely.
year. And also,
Yeah.
you've recently seen one. Oshi.
Well, yes. So we're going out Friday morning. So I saw one on Thursday afternoon, which I
Wow.
squeezed in. So I thought we could review it today.
Excellent. Well,
So
I understand there are four new ones in cinema. Do you want to start with those?
yeah, I mean there are more, but these are the four that I really wanted to highlight.
Okay.
So shall we highlight? So let's start with let's start with the real family friendly one, which is Mufasa the Lion King. So this is obviously from Disney. This is a prequel to a prequel. We all know the Lion King. Great music by Tim Rice and Elton John. Wonderful animated film. A couple of years ago, Disney made a live action version of The Lion King. They inserted a new film in it, and it was terrible. It flopped. I mean, it absolutely did no business at all at the cinemas. I think it was in cinemas for about a week, and that was it. And one of the real big problems was lions' mouths do not move in the same way as your mouth moves and my mouth moves. And they couldn't get it was no way convincing watching these lions singing and talking. It just didn't work. Um, and who needs a remake of The Lion King when you've got the wonderful animation film anyway? So I was very surprised, and a lot of people were very surprised when Disney announced they were bringing out another live action Lion King film, because the first one absolutely tanked. I mean, it was in cinemas for a week and nobody saw it again. And I don't think it did very well on streaming or DVD or Blu-ray. It was just a total mess. However, the good news, and I went into this thinking, oh, here we go. I'm going to waste the next 2 hours of my life. This is going to be boring. This isn't going to work. This is going to be dull. What am I doing going in to see this? I went into this with that kind of attitude. And I came out pleasantly surprised. They haven't fixed the problems of lions talking and singing. Okay, that is still a problem. The songs are not very memorable. They're by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who of Hamilton fame, who has written some really good songs. He's having an off day here. There are no memorable songs in this, but the story. So, The Lion King, the animated film, is about Simba, the lion cub who grows up to become king. His dad is Mufasa. This is Mufasa's story. And basically, we go back into the past. We find out how Mufasa and his wife Nabari met. We find out how Scar, Mufasa's brother in The Lion King, got his scar. It's a really good story. It's a really good action adventure story of how Mufasa became king. And it finishes with Simba's birth. It is an excellent film. They haven't solved the problems. The problems still exist. But if you can get your head around those, if you can begin to think, okay, I'm just going to accept that lions can't sing and lions can't talk, and a lot of their talking is done off screen, So we got an overhead shot of the lions walking along and they're talking. So that's how they've tried to avoid the problem. But the story is about Mufasa finding Pride Rock, which we know from The Lion King, finding that lush bit of the world over which he's king, where all the animals live together in harmony. It's a story of him being chased by some really bad lions who are white. It's a story of betrayal. It's a story of love. I just thought it was a really good story. Lots of people have come down heavy on it and said, oh, it's terrible. But that's because they are still thinking about the big problems of lions singing and dancing and talking, which doesn't work in a live action movie. Get past that, get into the story, and genuinely, the story is really, really good. It won't be long before it drops on Disney Plus, but it's still in cinemas. So if you're looking to take kids to the cinema, if you're looking to take granny to the cinema or have a family outing to the cinema, genuinely, Mufasa, I came out really pleasantly surprised. I went in thinking this is going to be terrible, and you should never do that, Nathan, when you go in to see a film. Never. You should go in thinking this is going to be the greatest thing since The Godfather. This is going to be the greatest thing since Raiders of the Lost Ark. But I did. I made the mistake. I went in thinking, I'm not looking forward to this. This is going to be, and it was a day after Boxing Day, and I was thinking, oh, this is going to be really terrible. It's not. It's really quite good. The story is good, but the problems still exist. So that's Mufasa the Lion King. Also on Boxing Day, we had another film come out called Better Man. Now, you will know that in recent years, we've had the Freddie Mercury story, Bohemian Rhapsody. We had the Elton John story in Rocket Man. We had the Bob Marley story in One Love. We had the Whitney Houston story in I Want to Dance with Somebody. Next week, a film comes out about the life of Bob Dylan. And later this year, we're getting a film about the life of the boss, Bruce Springsteen. And apparently the boss has approved it and said it's really good. Better Man is the Robbie Williams story. Now, Robbie Williams isn't that old, really. He's nowhere near retiring or giving up, is he? But this is his story. And the strange thing about this film is this. We start with a black screen and we hear Robbie Williams, who narrates all the way through the film. Robbie Williams says, I want to show you all how I see myself. And the lights come on and we realize we're looking into a mirror, and reflected in the mirror is the image of a chimpanzee. All the way through this film, Robbie Williams is played by a CGI chimpanzee. Okay, because that's how he sees himself. Mischievous, naughty, playful, irritant. You know, there's one scene which is straight out of Planet of the Apes, where he's got Robbie Williams seems to have multiple personalities. One day he's depressed, the next minute he's joyful, the next minute he's soulful. You know, next minute he's romantic. He seems to have multiple personalities. There's one scene where you've got all of these chimps fighting each other for supremacy over his personality. And it's a really weird fantasy moment. Once you get past the novelty of Robbie Williams being played by a chimp, I mean, the film is okay. So it tells the story of how he joined Take That. There's a big song and dance number set around Piccadilly Circus with one of the Take That songs. It tells the story of how he fell out with Take That, how he launched his solo career. It tells the story of his loves. I mean, he was in love with, had a relationship with one of the girls from All Saints. So it tells his story. What I didn't like about this was not the chimpanzee. That's fine. That's a novelty. I can live with that. What I didn't like about it was this is almost an exact replica of Rocket Man, which I loved. I think Rocket Man's an incredible film. They looked at Rocket Man and they said, let's just remake it, but instead of just showing our title character being played by an actor, we'll have him played by a chimp. So in Rocket Man, Elton John's got an errant father. In Better Man, Robbie Williams has got an errant father. In Rocket Man, Elton John's got a caring grandmother. Robbie Williams has got a caring grandmother. In Rocket Man, Elton John's got a hardworking mother. Robbie Williams has got a hardworking mother. Very early on in Rocket Man, there's a big song and dance number in a fairground. Very early on in this, there's a song and dance number in Piccadilly Circus. There are scenes in Rocket Man where Elton John's taking drugs, and we go from him taking drugs straight to seeing him on stage, straight to seeing him in his home. Exactly the same thing happens in this. And it's like the producers, who are the same producers, have said, well, it worked with Rocket Man, it'll work with Robbie Williams, it'll work with this film, we'll just copy it. I wanted something a bit more original. Now, they will tell you that the chimp, portraying Robbie Williams as a chimp, is original. Yes, it is. The scene that's lifted from Battle for Planet of the Apes is original. But it was a kind of copycat movie of Rocket Man. And Rocket Man is by far the better film. And maybe that's me because I prefer Elton John. I mean, I love Elton John's music to Robbie Williams. I think Robbie Williams is at his best when he's doing the swing music, and the jazz music. But it's almost a kind of retread. I mean, it is Robbie Williams' story, and it's not Robbie Williams' fault that he had a caring mother and a loving grandmother and an errant father, the same as Elton John. It's not his fault. This is the same story. And I think a lot of these pop stars sort of come from this sort of impoverished background and rags to riches, It's okay. It's okay. If you want to learn about Robbie Williams, I think there were better ways they could have done this, but it's entertaining when it's on screen, and it's a pop biopic. Excuse me, it is a 15 certificate, but it's okay. Also out in cinemas, there's two others. One that's out this weekend, which it's the one I saw yesterday. A Real Pain, this one's called. This is a simple film. This is a simple film about two cousins going on a road trip around Poland to find their grandmother's home. They're Polish origin. They go to Poland to find the house where their grandmother grew up, two cousins. One of them is a bit reckless and a bit fun-loving and is carrying weed with him. The other one is more serious and more down-to-earth. And it's basically just these two on a road trip around Poland. Now, I spent many, many hours of my life in Poland when I used to work as a missionary in Eastern Europe. And so it brought back many memories for me. It's a very joyful film. It's a lovely film. It is a happy film. It is a film that makes you think. There's a scene set in a concentration camp, not Auschwitz, but there's a scene set in a concentration camp that is very sober, very thought-provoking, brings you back down to earth with a bump. But honestly, I really, really, really enjoyed it. It's called We Live in Time. It is a 15 certificate because there's some drugs misuse. But honestly, to goodness, just an enjoyable time in the likable company of two people. So Jesse Einsberg is one of them. He wrote and directed this. He's a great actor. He's been in a number of really good films over the years. And I thought that A Real Pain was really good. It's only 90 minutes, hour and a half out of your life. And I thought that Poland was beautifully shot. Poland's a beautiful country. I mean, I've traveled all over Poland. Poland is a beautiful country. And I really, really enjoyed this look at what two Americans viewing a different culture, basically, and having to come to terms with a different culture and having to come to terms with the Holocaust as well. There's lots of stuff in there about the Holocaust. So that's out in cinemas today, Real Pain, which I enjoyed. And the other one that's in cinemas that we'll just mention is a film called We Live in Time. Now, this stars Andrew Garfield, better known for playing Spider-Man in earlier years, and Florence Pugh. Andrew Garfield is going through a divorce. He's an executive with Weetabix, and he's going through a divorce, and he's not concentrating one day, crossing the road, and Florence Pugh runs him over. And she takes him to hospital, and he's kind of in a brace, and the two of them end up falling in love. And again, a simple story of love, romance. They fall in with each other, they fall out with each other. She develops cancer, and the story of how they cope with that, and can they have children or not. So again, a domestic romantic love story. My biggest problem with We Live in Time was that if you've seen the trailer, you've seen the film. I mean, I don't know sometimes what editors and production companies are thinking when they put some trailers out. I have a real problem. I actually now try to make it a policy to arrive at the cinema as the trailers are ending. Because sometimes when you see a trailer these days, you are seeing they are giving away so much plot information. I mean, there was a film came out a couple of years ago, an action film starring Liam Neeson. They actually showed the end scene in the trailer, the big surprise, big jolted end scene, and you think, what? And it's true, particularly with horror films. When you see a trailer for a horror film, they often show you where the jumps are, where the jump scares are. And so you're sitting watching the film and thinking, oh, so-and-so's going to pop out in a minute. And so-and-so, and they do, And I have a real beef with whoever puts trailers together. Yes, they want people to come and see their film. but I avoid trailers like the plague these days if I can, because they give away so much. Um, but that said, We Live in Time is a domestic romantic. It's a kind of comedy. It's a drama. Just say she gets cancer. Um, quite enjoyed it. Quite enjoyed it. But those are the four big ones out at the cinema at the moment. Now there is another one coming out today, which I haven't seen yet, which will be a big one. It stars Angelina Jolie on Maria Callas, the opera singer. So not only are we getting rock stars now, we're getting opera singers. And the story of their lives. So, but those are the four that are cinema. So for the family, take them to see Mufasa, The Lion King, which is much better than I thought it would be, much better than it has any right to be, isn't bad at all. If you're interested in Robbie Williams, if you're a Robbie Williams fan, you're going to want to see Better Man, the story of his life to date. I mean, there's scope in there for a sequel, surely, with Robbie Williams in 10, 20 years' time. Who knows? A Real Pain, a really nice road trip around Poland with two cousins, looking at the Holocaust in particular. And We Live in Time, a romantic comedy drama about a young couple. She runs him over, they fall in love and end up getting married. So those are the four big ones in the cinema, plus the Maria Callas story with Angelina Jolie, which I'll report on next week if that's okay.
Yeah, that sounds great. There's some good
Wow.
films there. I mean, I see what you mean about trailers, though. I mean, I've watched some trailers and thought, wow, I know everything that happens in the film now.
Yeah.
I don't need to watch it.
No, you don't. And it's crazy. I mean, the most famous one of all, actually, this is not a new phenomenon. In 1973, a film came out called Soylent Green, which was set in the future where the world is overpopulated and people are starving, and all they can eat is this food that's been manufactured called Soylent Green. And I'm not going to spoil it because people may want to see this. It's a Charlton Heston starred in it. It's a science fiction film. The trailer told you what Soylent Green is, which is the last scene of the film. It's crazy. I mean, one of my favourite films of all time is the original Planet of the Apes. And if you know that film, you'll know that right at the end, we discover that the Planet of the Apes is actually the planet Earth all along. Charlton Heston comes across the ruins of the Statue of Liberty. And he says, "You blew it up, you blew it up." You blew up the planet and the apes took over. When they brought that film out on DVD, on the cover, they put the Statue of Liberty blown up. And the big shock at the end is that you're on Earth all the time. What, So it's not a new phenomenon. But honestly, yeah.
I know what
Trailers
you mean.
are terrible.
Yeah. Okay. Well, some great films out in cinema,
Yeah.
and another one coming up soon. Another, I guess, a biopic with Angelina Jolie.
Yeah. Maria Callas, the famous opera singer, her story. And as I say, next week we've got the Bob Dylan story.
Oh, yes.
Later in the year, we've got one on Bruce Springsteen. So this seems to be the Hollywood rage at the moment. There seems to be a lack of original stories because, as we said last year, we had over 16 sequels.
Yeah.
So they can't seem to come up with original stories. So let's make a life story of somebody, because Bohemian Rhapsody did really well, and Rocket Man did really well. So because on the basis of that, we will assume that if we make biopics, they'll do really well. I mean, one that really flopped was a recent one on the life of, I forget the singer, the guy who sang "Just Be Happy." The happiness is a room without it. Anyway, that one flopped. But So the basic thinking seems to be, and at least with Better Man, by casting Robbie Williams as a chimp, they've tried to do something a bit different.
That's true.
They tried.
Yeah.
Shall we go for a few movies to watch at home?
Yes, that sounds good.
Because I don't know about up there, but here in Milton Keynes, it's freezing.
Same here.
So people might not want to go out this weekend. So let's start then with the family one again. A lot of people will have seen this because on BBC One on Christmas Day, the new Wallace and Gromit film came out. And I love Wallace and Gromit. I don't know about you. I just love Wallace and Gromit. And this is called Vengeance Most Fowl. It's a sequel to The Wrong Trousers, which was the first ever Wallace and Gromit film. It took 4 years to make. Feathers McGraw, who stole a diamond in that first film and was captured by Wallace and Gromit, is in prison. He's actually in a zoo, and he wreaks revenge on Wallace and Gromit in this. You need to watch this about 5 times. I mean, I didn't see it on Christmas Day when it went out. I saw it on the BBC iPlayer, and it's still on the BBC iPlayer. So you can watch it on BBC iPlayer. There's so many background jokes in this. I mean, you know, I miss loads. And watching it again for the second time, I saw so much that I missed. And I am convinced that when I watch it for the third time, and I will, because it's Wallace and Gromit, because it's fun, because it's terrifically enjoyable, I will see more stuff, you know. So Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Fowl. One of the things to look out for with Wallace and Gromit always is you can see the fingerprints sometimes in the plasticine, in the clay, you know. And I just love that. They're not too bothered about that. But Wallace, I mean, it got great viewing figures on Christmas Day. It got great viewing figures on the iPlayer. I mean, we all know Gavin and Stacey was the most watched Christmas programme in years. But Wallace and Gromit was pretty close behind it and did really, really well.
Wow.
So that's still on the BBC iPlayer. I would heartily recommend that. Get the family round, bowl of popcorn, freeze frame it. There are times when I was freeze framing because there's stuff going on in the background, you know. Gromit's reading a book. And what's the title of that book? Oh, it's really funny, you know. So Wallace and Gromit, absolute must. Also to watch at home, there are 2 documentaries about 2 great actors. So one is called, it's on Sky Documentaries for those who've got it. It's called Super Stroke Man, the Christopher Reeve story. Now, we all know that Christopher Reeve played Superman, and Christopher Reeve was my Superman. I remember going to see the Christopher Reeve movies and absolutely loving them. Margaret Kidder was fantastic as Lois Lane. This is a documentary about Christopher Reeve's life, particularly focusing on his accident that he had, where you will know he fell off a horse and he landed on his head and he broke his neck. And for the rest of his life, he was paralyzed. Following that accident and following a degree of recovery, Christopher Reeve did so much good work to raise awareness for disabled people. I mean, he raised millions of pounds. He started the Christopher Reeve Foundation. Hospitals changed the way they operated with disabled people because of Christopher Reeves. So much. It is a fascinating documentary. It's really well put together. It is a documentary that features his friends, features his wife talking, features clips of him talking, because of course he passed away sadly. But honestly, really, really rewarding. If you've got Sky Documentaries, do look at that. Because I mean, Christopher Reeves was in a number of really good films, but everybody only ever thinks of him as Superman. You know, the other films that he was in tend to get forgotten in the light of the Superman movies. And it has to be said, Superman 3 and 4 flopped. They weren't very good. But Superman the movie and Superman 2 was in my all-time top 10 for a very, very long time. I absolutely loved it. And I cried through this. You know, you see Christopher Reeves having this accident, falling off his horse, landing on his head, breaking his neck. Such a gentleman. You get the impression of a real gentleman who loved his family, wasn't necessarily concerned about fame and fortune, but when he did get acting roles, just wanted to do the best job he could, and did so much to raise awareness for disabled people. And literally, there are people walking today who couldn't walk, who broke their necks because of the work he did and the foundations and the hospitals he set up. So it's really rewarding documentary, well worth watching. The other documentary, and this one's on the BBC iPlayer, so access for everybody probably, is called From Roger Moore with Love. Now, the first James Bond film I ever saw at the cinema was The Spy Who Loved Me. So I grew up watching Roger Moore as James Bond. And again, Roger Moore was so much more than James Bond, but everybody thinks of him as James Bond, you know? And this is the story of his life. This, again, is the story of his career. It's the story of his family. It's the story of how he passed away and what happened. and the effect that had. So, two great documentaries, really, really good, about two great actors. And obviously, being interested in cinema, I wanted to watch them anyway. But you should just watch them anyway. You should just watch them, because really revealing insight into the life of these two very famous men who played such iconic roles, Superman and James Bond. You don't get more iconic than that, you know.
Yeah.
So from Roger Moore with Love, and it's on the BBC iPlayer. Really worth seeing. And then just two more, if we got time, just to mention at home. So the first one is a film called Carry On. This is on Netflix. Taron Egerton, who played Elton John in Rocket Man, which we were just talking about, is a security officer at an airport. And he's sitting there, and you know where the bags go through the scanner. So he's sitting there looking at bags going through the scanner, and somebody from the other side hands him an earpiece and says, "Put this in your ear." He puts it in his ear, and he hears a voice saying, "In a moment, a bag is going to go through your scanner. It's got a bomb in it. You must let it go, or we will kill your girlfriend. I have an associate who right now has got a gun pointed at your girlfriend. If you don't let this bomb go through your scanner, we're going to kill her." This is very much a take on Die Hard. This is kind of Die Hard light, really. And there's one scene that absolutely infuriated. My brother rang me up, and he was watching it, and it absolutely infuriated him because there's a plot twist that doesn't really work. That said, it's a good action thriller. If you're looking for a good action thriller, it's set on Christmas Eve, by the way, so a few weeks too late, maybe. But this is why Netflix bought it out. Eventually, Taron Egerton ends up on the plane with the suitcase with the bomb, trying to dismantle it. Okay, and he's got his girl. His girlfriend is still in danger. Honestly, it's not as tense as it should be. It's not as good as it should be. There's one plot twist that absolutely doesn't work, but it's fine. It's a good evening's entertainment. I sat and watched it, quite enjoyed it. It's on Netflix. It's called Carry On, and it is very good. The other one to watch at home, and I just had to mention this. Now, this will cost, because it's only available to rent at the moment. But guess what? Wicked is now available to watch at home. So if you remember the last show we did last year together, I said that Wicked was my favourite film of the year. It won some Golden Globes the other week at the Golden Globes Award ceremony. Wicked is now available to rent at home. It's still in cinemas. In fact, doing the round in cinemas at the moment is a sing-along version with the lyrics appearing on the screen to the song. My daughter went to the sing-along version, and she said, "Dad, it was really good. It was lovely just seeing everybody having a great time and singing along." So she went to see Wicked, the sing-along version, but it is now available to rent at home, and you can get a bonus edition that's got a few behind-the-scenes documentaries. But those are the ones to watch at home. Definitely watch Wallace and Gromit. And watch it twice, watch it 3 times. I'm going to watch it a third time because there's so much going on in the background. You know, so many in-jokes.
Yeah.
Super Stroke Man, the Christopher Reeve story, moving and touching. From Roger Moore with Love, Carry On, which is it is a good thriller, and Wicked. So something for everybody to watch at home if you're not brave enough to go out into the cold.
Absolutely.
And yeah. So there you go, Nathan. Those are the ones that are in the cinema, and those are the best ones to watch at home at the moment, in my view.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Andy. Great to hear from you again.
Well, it's really good to be back, Nathan, and I'm really excited today. When we get round to March, I had some good news today. When we get round to March, there's a film coming out called Bonhoeffer, which is about the German theologian who was involved, it's alleged, in the plot to kill Hitler. He was a great theologian, great Christian. I don't know if you know this, but during the Second World War, Hitler had all Bibles removed from German churches, and they were replaced with another Bible that had an 11th commandment. And the 11th commandment that was printed into the Bible said, "Thou shalt obey the Führer."
Wow.
And Bonhoeffer was a theologian who, along with other Christian ministers and Christians in Germany, stood up against this and said, You can't alter the word of God. This is wrong. This is, you know, he ended up in a concentration camp for opposing the Führer and was hung in a concentration camp. They've made a terrific film about his life. It's a brilliant film. I saw it last year, and it's not coming out until March this year. But I had a little note from the production company today because I'd sent them a review saying they're going to use my quote on the poster. So that's pretty
Awesome.
awesome. And it's going to go under the banner of Sorted. So our late great friend Steve Legg would be very proud. So I was really pleased with that news today. I'm going to be on another movie poster, and we'll talk about that nearer the time when it comes out, because that will be one of those films we will want to encourage everybody listening to Pure to go and see and support. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's great to be back, and look forward to next week, and we shall have some more new films to talk about next week.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Andy. Speak again soon.
Look forward to it. God bless, and God bless Pure.